is our cubic mini Grizzly. I'm just going to show you how to clean it. So far so good, we love this thing. Okay.
Hello, Redford. Hi, yes.
Now you want something.
He's like, no, I just wanted to be in the shot.
Yeah. First of all, I like to work my way outside in, so I'll use the Dyson or use any vacuum just for this spot right here, and then so you don't have to worry about it going all over the place. Shovel the ash from the night before or whatever, and we just put it in this.
It was our citronella candle over the summer.
Yeah.
And it matches our color theme with the red buckets.
And don't mind this peeling off, we were just experimenting with paint. So.
We're going to have to take a wire brush to that the next time the stove goes outside, but I think that's going to have to wait for a little while.
And this thing has 2 burning chambers, so it'll try and burn off the smoke.
Like once it gets up to temperature, you would barely know that we have a wood stove in here. You really can't even see it.
So I'm just going to take out the secondary combustion plates. So all it is these 2 screws. You'll see. You just got to take those out so when you put the brush down from the top so it doesn't collect and so you can clean it out better. I appreciate it.
Did you steal our wood? This is the daily struggle. Redford goes into the wood basket, takes a piece of wood, decides that he wants to chew on it, makes a big mess. We think he's making kindling, so he wants us to start the fire because he loves when it's warm in here.
All it does is just keep pressure so they just don't pop up. So it's on, these screws just push up and push on the roof of the stove, so it holds it in place.
Oh, so when you loosen it, it just kind of drops down.
Well, yeah, I would loosen them as much as you can, then you have to kind of, because there's lips, you have to like kind of push up and then like kind of finagle it out.
Alright, go ahead. While he's doing that, we also got the, there's a different version of the gauge for the stovepipe, and as you can see, this one is magnetic. It just holds right onto the side of the wood stove, which is great, and then we just kind of keep an eye on it when we're burning. The one for the stovepipe actually is supposed to be magnetic too, but because of whatever this is made of, it wouldn't stick, so we used the metal tape that we sealed the seams with, which was really helpful. And I use that to actually attach it to the stovepipe so we can keep an eye on the stovepipe to make sure that's not getting too hot, which just kind of makes me feel better overall that nothing bad is going on, and you would kind of know if it was getting too hot. Oh.
So I got one of them out, there's 2. So this is just what I was talking about. You're just loosening and tightening this. It just pushes down on it. These lips, but you want these lips to the back, and this flat part to the front. I'll just put it in the sink.
Okay.
In a tiny house, everything's so close by. Yeah, and like I said, this is only the second time I'm doing this.
We didn't film it the first time because we didn't know what we were doing.
And here's the second one.
So now they're both out.
I pretty much try and clean this thing whenever the weather's decent. So if I see that the weather's going to get cold, I'll look on and clean it out.
We figured out that for the amount of use that we do, cleaning the stove every 1.5 to 2 weeks keeps it working its best. The fire just behaves better and is easier to manage when the stovepipe is really clean. And it depends on the wood you're using, right? Because in the beginning we had crappy wood that we just had. Yeah, I wasn't sure what I was doing. And then after we got that wood delivery, we had like really good dry oak. So that was pretty good. Yeah. I feel like it was burning. The fire was like behaving differently when we switched the wood. So this has been like a whole learning experience. There's a skill to this.
I do recommend it, but yeah, it's just like anything else. You got to see what works for you, what your environment is, your elevation. There's a whole bunch, the wood that you're using.
There's a lot of factors.
Yeah, and because it is smaller, I guess you do have to mess with it a little bit more. But we live in a tiny house, so we're passing by this thing all the time.
All the time, yeah.
So I can just be like, oh, the temperature's coming down, I'll start it back up.
And then actually a couple days ago, Pat brought one of our camping chairs in here, and he'll sit right there, right across from the stove, which is great because then it's really warm there, and he can keep an eye on the stove while he's studying for his drone test. So
yeah.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah. And didn't see before, but I did loosen the screws with the Leatherman. Yeah, so you're going to have to do that.
Okay, so we have a 3-inch brush that I ordered online that's actually for cleaning out pellet stoves and stovepipes like that. You have to get a 3-inch one because the flue for this stove is so small. And then we're just putting a paper towel in there, so that's going to catch all the stuff that the brush pushes down and drops out where those plates came out. So it's kind of nice. You can actually see how much buildup there was in the stovepipe, so you can adjust your cleaning schedule accordingly if you're burning more or you're burning less. But we've been using it pretty much every day right now because it's just been, it was in the 20s overnight, so it's been pretty cold, and it's just been really damp on the days when it's not cold. It was like 80% humidity, so the wood stove is super helpful to dry out the house because that's a big problem with tiny houses. The humidity and the moisture inside is very hard to manage in the winter, so this has been so helpful.
Before we clean it and go outside, don't forget to close the door.
Oh, because it'll all fall out?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Close everything up.
Good thing, yeah, close it. You do look like a chimney sweep, I'm just saying.
But going here, I'm just grabbing the
Here's our brush.
3-inch brush.
Okay. One of the things to consider if you're going to put a wood stove in is how easily you can access the top to clean it. This is one of the biggest challenges for us because even though we have a tiny house, it's very tall, and we have to have a ladder to get up to the roof because you have to feed the brush in through the top of the flue. And this little giant ladder does a great job. I got this way back when I was painting murals and I needed an adjustable ladder. It's a little bit heavy, but you can put it into a lot of different configurations and it's very stable, which is important. So something to consider if you're going to put one of these wood stoves in is ease of being able to reach the top and clean it.
I'll show you what I did here. I'll only keep one screw in here. I might not have to do that. But it just should pop right off. Let me put this down and I'll show you. And we're also going to clean this guy out too. That's that. And this is where I'll put the, obviously the brush, and we'll clean the sucker up.
Since our house is so tall, the stovepipe is quite long as well, so we tied this string and a lock to the bottom to serve as a little weight. That way, when I'm inside the house, I can make sure that the brush goes all the way down to the bottom. It can be a little bit tricky. Red, let's go in. Come on. No car. Red. Inside. Come on. Redford. Oh, Red. He's in the car. Okay. All right, you stay in the car then. When we're doing a more meticulous cleaning of the stovepipe, I go inside to help and I open the window so that I can hear when Pat is ready and we can communicate a little bit better just to make sure that, all right, we know what's going on. Ready? And then I go inside and I watch to make sure that the brush is going all the way down to the bottom of our rather long stovepipe.
Okay.
As Patrick moves the brush up and down through the pipe a few times, I watch from the inside to see when it gets to the point that there's not as much creosote falling out, so we know we got most of it. Attaching the lock as a weight and a little bit of string to the end of the brush is helpful just to make sure that it gets all the way down to the bottom. Since the stovepipe is so long, it's easy for it to get stuck, and the line that it's on is flexible, so it's a little hard to push it all the way down. So this can really help.
Yeah, don't take that wood though.
I just want to show too, just right on top of here it can get debris caught, or more of the ash, so I just take my hand and just wipe it off. It's dirty.
Yeah, it is pretty dirty.
Yeah, we've been using it a lot. But I'll
Inside.
take off.
Oh, you can take it apart.
Yeah.
You help? Oh, you help.
I'm enthusiastic about everything. Not too bad. But would help to get cleaned.
Yeah, that's got some stuff in it.
Yeah. I'll just use this right now.
When we bought our stove about 5 years ago, right after we got the tiny house, it didn't come as a full kit. They didn't have their own cap that you could use. So most people recommended using the Dickenson system, which is actually made for a boat and it's a little bit more restrictive. What we found is that most of the creosote actually collects in the cap. Because it's so enclosed, the airflow is not great. And that's for safety on a boat, but next season we're going to switch this out for a different cap and see if that helps the performance of the stove overall.
This is just the, I'm just working with what I got right now. I'm sure there's tools for this, but this actually works really good. It's just a tongue scraper for your oral care.
That's so funny.
It actually has the right contours to just go up and down and clean the sides of this thing. This is, again, this is the cap for the top. Works really good.
When we're doing this really detailed cleaning of the wood stove, we also use this bottle brush to get inside the stove to all the little nooks and crannies to make sure that none of the creosote that we cleaned out with the pellet brush actually gets stuck. Okay, so there's what we ended up getting out. And that was, I think, like 2 weeks of pretty much full-time, well, not full-time, but 2 weeks of using it every night. And I think actually one day we had it burning all day because we were both home and it was really damp outside, so I would say that's not too bad. That would be about the most frequently that we would have to clean it, is every 2 weeks if we're using it a lot.
So now we cleaned pretty much everything. Still have to put the cap on, but I'll put the plates back in for the secondary burn.
And Red just decided he wants to eat his lunch now.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Jet want to fly by, or somebody
Yeah.
mow the lawn?
Yeah, last time the fighter jet started doing maneuvers.
Yeah. Go in with this edge first and come up and set it down.
The inside edge?
Yeah.
Okay, so the one that sits on that like metal beam?
Yeah, try and get that first.
Because it is a little bit of a pain to get them back in.
Yeah, that's much easier.
Has to fit just right, yeah.
Yep, that's it. That's the trick.
There we go.
Yeah, so go in and come back down.
Learning.
And make sure it's to the back. Push to the back.
Mm-hmm. And then you just tighten the screw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now both of the ceiling plates are back in. Here we go. And we're going to put the cap back on the top. And then it's done, right?
Yeah.
Ready for a fire.
So I put the cap of the cap.
The cap of the cap.
Back on. Just the top. Cleaned it out. And we'll put it on the top of the...
Well, we soaked it in a bucket with soapy water with like Dr. Bronner's. And tongue scraped it. And then toothbrushed it a little bit so it's nice and clean.
It's as clean as it's going to get.
Yeah. There's like little bits of soot all over the place. But
we'll get better at that.
Part of the process. Alright, put it back on and then it's done.
I feel like it's like the, I don't know, what, 1800s?
Chimney sweep. I'm glad you don't have to crawl in there.
Yeah. Thank God for child labor laws.
I don't think you'd fit. You're way too big.
Maybe you could help.
No, he'll make a mess. He's just following you. It's so funny.
Sidekick.
Oh, now he's playing. Okay. So I think the weird thing about the tiny house is that it is tall. It is very tall. So like shorter houses, this process will be a lot easier. Our house is about as high as like an 18-wheeler because that's the legal height for the road.
I'll just put the screws back in and that'll be set.
Okay, the wood stove is clean and ready to go for probably at least another 2 weeks. And I'm freezing, so let's make some soup and warm up because it was kind of a cold, windy day to be doing that. Thanks for being here and letting us share our experiences with you. We would appreciate it if you subscribed so that we could continue to share our future journeys with you.
You worried about you and me, the injustice, the next president to be, the news and what you hear, your career. It's time for you to face those fears, and it's all fair to be aware, and I'll be there, so don't be scared. Just take a deep breath of air, and 1, 2, 3 to 10, you begin to focus again, and though time flies, we have enough to realize this bigger than the both of us.